Hello and welcome. It's a little late, but Happy New Year. We are a bit into it now. And about the nicest thing I can say is the horrors persist, but so do I. There's just a lot going on in the world, and it was kind of hard to reconcile doing creative things while being like, what is happening. I'm not going to get too far into it because you're here to relax in peace. And that's kind of what's gotten me going again, is realizing that it's the little things like video games and crafting and content creators and stuff that kind of help keep us sane as, we deal with personal things, what's going on in the world, whatever. So here I am making myself get back into it. I've actually been doing some other types of art. I just finished a quilt for my parents. Well, I technically still have to bind it, but like all the piece putting together is done. Anyways, that led to a bit of a realization. Confession, my art area is trashed, and I've put in some work trying to make it better. But the fact of the matter is one, I am a supply hoarder, and two, I live in a small space, and so sometimes it's hard to find homes for everything. But I think I may have a solution, and it's going to start with something very random. Let's go take a look. Relax in peace. All right, so first, a little look at what we're working with here. I got these plastic drawers last year, which actually helped quite a bit. But like I said, I have a lot of stuff, so it's still overflowing a bit. I have stuff, I think you can see, but I have stuff on the bottom. Ignore the tortilla chips, that's for snacking later. I have stuff still up on top, which is not necessarily a problem, but it is just a show of how much stuff I have. Let me not block this other side. I have so much stuff. I have props that I don't know what to do with, future projects, new stuff, it's just a lot. And so I think one of the big solutions is to slightly split some of it. And that's going to be primarily these bottom drawers, especially the bottom two are sewing, like they're fabric. The next one up I think has a lot of ribbon and like odds and ends. But I think the solution is to have a separate space for my fabric stash. And then I will have those drawers to sort more things into and hopefully get some control of the desk area, rearrange things. That's the other problem. I got the drawers and I didn't really do much with reorganizing what was on the desk. But yeah, I want to get that out of here, but someplace easily accessible. And where would that be in a space so small? I'm glad you asked. Let's take a look. So I think that I want to put my fabric stash under the bed. One little problem, there's like no space. I think this has like maybe like a 5-inch clearing. I do have some stuff stored under it in like the super flat boxes, or one thing I tried to do, space saver bags. It was a great idea. But the problem being, I went to put it underneath the bed and a couple of them caught, something metal, ripped it, which immediately wasted my time and money because obviously if there's a hole in a space saver bag, all the air rushes back in and it is no longer a flat space saving solution. So what makes me think I can store my fabric stash under here? Let's go look at that. Here's the answer. This is a bed frame with a 12-inch clearance on it. So I know it may like mess with my headboard and I might have to adjust that, but I think that this is going to solve so many problems. I'm gonna be able to actually fit like boxes under the bed, so I may have to do some shopping for that. But this is what I need to get started. I know it's a very weird jump to go from how do I fix my crafting space to let's build a bed frame. But like I said, I live in a small space and you have to make use of every nook and cranny you can when it comes to organization. So before we start building this, I do need to clear out some stuff from the bedroom so that I can move the mattress safely without breaking anything. If you've seen my decor video, you know that I've got a number of things that could get knocked around by moving the mattress. So I'm going to do some groundwork, get this built, and then we're going to start organizing some craft supplies. And now we have a finished bed frame. I'm going to sort some non-craft stuff, rearrange boxes, and figure out what I want to put my fabric in, and then I will come back for the proper craft sorting part of this video. Alright, a few weeks have gone by, during which I came down with the flu, had to swap to another project due to it being for an event, so had a hard deadline. Let's see, the world went even more crazy than it already was. So fell down that rabbit hole for a little while. And I also actually had to do the sorting part of getting containers prepped and gathered and whatnot. So I actually have like a whole bag of like donations of old linens, and yeah, I've got some really great cleaning done in the bedroom, so that made me super happy. And now I'm ready to finally continue with the actual art portion of this. So I've got a big old flat box that now will actually roll under the bed like it's supposed to. It just barely fit under my old frame, so this one I can actually freely get in and out. Very happy about that. So yes, this first box at least is going to be filled with my fabric stash, which is taking up these two drawers, and then I don't know if you want to count all the ribbon, there's like some different tool and stuff in this drawer. So this is going to free up a bunch of space for the stacked up art supplies that I have over there. So let me see what I've got going on in this pile that started accumulating in front. I think this is mostly scraps, which I am working on a separate sort of bin or something for like just the small leftover pieces, because if it's not going to be able to be used like in a full project, I don't know that I want it in like my regular fabric stash, but I can see it for like detailings or maybe a scrap quilt one day, something like that. So let me just toss this back over here for now. I got this for a potential project. This was actually an early version in my head for the jewelry holder that I made, but it'll be used for something else, I'm sure. So this is something that I started working on quite some time ago, but all that beading is very tedious, so this is just a to be continued project that I should probably start working on again. Let's see, we have something that I've harvested from, probably for the lace. This might have been part of the lamps that I made, I don't remember. So this probably needs to have the rest of the lace harvested and then the fabric put into the scrap stash, so I'll put that over there for now. More random pieces. So I've got some really cute bat fabric here. Some of this just needs to be refolded and then added to the box. This is actually fabric I got in Japan, and I want to make some sort of cozy dress, but I haven't decided on a pattern yet. So this is also going to just get folded up and put away. This is a lot of fabric in this particular one, and I want to try and fold everything consistently-ish, I guess, because I want to be able to kind of stand them up like I have in these drawers, so I can look through and see exactly what I'm working with. Okay, so this is like nicer fabrics, and then below I have more like cottony and thrifted random stuff. So I guess the big question for myself is, do I want to separate by type or just by color? And I'm leaning towards just color, because usually when I'm going through here, that's more what I'm focused on than anything else at this point. So let's start with all like the more neutrally type stuff. And a lot of this is just stuff that I've picked up while thrifting. Let's see. Actually, I have a bunch more whites in here. Whites and creams. Hopefully the lid will close. I may have to refold some of these, but this way you kind of get an idea of what I'm aiming to do. Let's see. I also have quite a few like quarters, so I think I'm just gonna keep these like separate over in this corner, since this is all I really have of colorful fabrics. You can tell I have a specific palette that I prefer to stick to. This bunch is actually fabric that I got in Japan, and I think they'll make really cool things one day. I just need to figure out what those things are. Alright, so here it is, all color coordinated. It's really nice to see it just all in one swab. I know it was like all together, but just having it all side by side makes it really obvious what I have available to me for projects. So this is really cool. The only thing that I don't have in here, I've got a few special occasion fabrics that are left over from sentimental things like my wedding, or let's see, I have a prom fabric in here and a couple other ones. So those will stay in their own bag because I don't want to use those willy-nilly. But yeah, everything I've got, it looks like I really need to do some sewing projects. So now that I see what all is available to me, I can start planning those for the future. But now we can move on to the notions, zippers, patterns, buttons, what have you, and it's all going to go into a similar tub as this actually. All right, so after much digging and gathering, I think I have found at least most of my sewing related notions and odds and ends. I still have this drawer full of ribbons, and I'm not sure if I'm going to put it with the sewing stuff or not, because a lot of it is more like craft related than like actual sewing. So this may be just staying in a drawer, but I'm not positive. This is going to kind of get figured out after I see how full this box is and what I have going on in the rest of the drawers. Fun fact, I just found this needle shoved into the carpet, so not sure where that came from. Let me just set that right there for now. Anyways, notions. They are sorted. I feel pretty good about this. It's not perfect. I probably want to get some more boxes to eliminate some of the plastic bags, but honestly, it's kind of nice in the plastic bags for some of the stuff because I can just like tuck it in random areas. Not everything has to be fancy. Case in point, using a leftover cardboard box that happened to have little separators. It made the perfect sorting bin. So yes, this I'm going to call complete, and there is still some room to grow if I need to. There are a few things I am holding out. I've got like, I need to get better things for these than plastic bags, particularly my buttons, since I have to dump it out every time I'm looking for something. But I want to keep stuff like this a little bit more accessible than under my bed, because like if a pair of pants loses a button, I could replace it, or if I have a busted zipper that I can actually get out of the clothing without worry, I can replace that too. Thread, obviously, things that could be used for just mending things that get wear and tear and just need a little repair work. Also, I'm going to treat this kind of the same way I'm treating my specialty fabrics. This is my scraps bag. Big enough to do maybe something, maybe like a quilt or, you know, pocket like embellishment with, but not big enough to actually sew with. So like bag, I can just grab it out from on top of the box, chuck any scraps that I have, and just put it back. Yes, this is hopefully something that I can make a project with one day, and it reduces some of the waste. I don't keep every little thing, but there are some bigger pieces in here that I know can be used for something. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it for my sewing supplies. I'll have to arrange some of my tools in one of the drawers over there once we get to that part. But yeah, once I chuck in those last few notions into just this old art box I have, I think the sewing stuff is finally complete, which is really incredible. I think the only thing I didn't really get to put in here like I was hoping is all this ribbon, but once again, a lot of this is more like crafty ribbon, like this sort of like mesh, wire edge ribbon, that sort of thing. So I don't necessarily feel bad about keeping a drawer full of that sort of stuff with my crafting goods. I just need to get it more organized than it is currently. All right, I am going to take a break for the night, come back refreshed, and we're gonna keep on working on this monster project, and hopefully it doesn't take too many more sessions, but we're gonna keep plugging away until it's done. Alright, it is time to tackle the main portion of this project now. And it feels like I've already done so much work to just be really starting on the actual space. But there was a lot to do, to be fair. There's a lot of stuff that's been accumulated over here. I think my goal is to get a lot of like the artsy, craftsy stuff that was put onto these shelves, like my glitters, styrofoam balls, just some various odds and ends, and move into these drawers. And now that I've got like, I don't know, like 3.5-ish drawers cleared out, I want to do a lot of reorganizing and try to really get some solid categories going. It's hard when it comes to arts and crafts because you just kind of accumulate odds and ends over time that end up being really random. Like, you're like, I know I could use this for something eventually, but it doesn't necessarily fit into a solid category like glue or glitter or papers or whatever. But I'm going to do my best and at least make it so it's easy for me to find what I'm looking for, because even though I've roughly sorted things, I still end up doing a lot of digging. And I think that's just the nature of having limited space, so you just kind of start sticking things where they fit. But like I said, now I've cleared up some drawers. I think that I can spread it out and get it better organized. So I think the first step is literally just pulling it all apart and putting it into piles to kind of see what I have. I might not necessarily do that with my paints and pencils and stuff because those are pretty solidly in one place. But all the random doodads, yeah, I think that's what I'm going to have to do is just start pulling it apart. And actually, even before that, I see that I've chucked a bunch of stuff that doesn't even go over here in here. So I'm going to do some pulling out and cleaning of just non-art supplies, and then we're going to start making piles. Leftover fabric from a quilt I made that I'm not sure what to do with because it's not really my color palette since it was made as a gift, but we'll find a use for it and store it. Maybe not with my other fabric since, like I said, this is not my typical stuff, but yeah, that's part of the sorting process, I guess. See, this is what I was talking about. These are pants that legit just need to be hemmed, and so they ended up over here, got buried, and never got hemmed. So I'm gonna actually put these someplace fully visible so I can get that done. Alright, I think that took care of most of the items that absolutely do not belong, and some of just the bulky items that needed to be put out of the way so I could reach the do not belong items. So I'm gonna go ahead and just start pulling things and putting them into piles, and I'll bring you back once I have said piles to start discussing strategy. Okay, I am finally done emptying out all the drawers except the ribbon one. That's already gathered together, so I am just leaving them there. And then I've pulled out most of the arts and crafty sorty stuff from here. I'm going to go ahead and leave the more traditional supplies like paints, markers, pencils for the moment. I do still have my glue, and I think that's going to end up back over here as well, so I'm just going to leave that there. All right, and here is everything else aside from a stack of art journaling, like paper journaling sort of stuff. That is in its own pile, but I have like foam and diamond art, an ungodly number of cardboard tubes. I've got like different little plastic containers, sparkly stuff, paper for mache and texturing and whatnot. I've got, I think this has like, yeah, this is like fake flower stuff, wooden pieces, all sorts of odds and ends, yarn, yeah, just so much stuff. All right, I'm gonna call it here. I hate I have all this stuff all over my floor, but I need to put a pin in it and come back to it refreshed. I think it's got a good start of organizing, and now it'll just be a matter of putting it into the drawers, which I should have been working on tonight, but I had to stop after I got about a third of the way pulling stuff out because I went into my kitchen to refill my cup, and there was a puddle of water on the floor in front of the refrigerator. It's fixed now, but yeah, I had to deal with it in that moment so that I didn't like lose a whole bunch of food. That was rough. Yeah, but I feel good. I think that this is gonna go back into the drawers pretty smoothly. Fingers crossed. We say that now. We'll see what happens. But I'm gonna get some rest and I'll start again tomorrow. I really need to get started because I've already spent an hour procrastinating just looking for background movies. Okay, it's not so much that I'm overwhelmed as that I'm starting to overthink it, and I think I just need to like get started and then kind of reach that flow state of getting going and having the ideas start popping in. I'm gonna start with like the super simple stuff. Like I already know what I want to do with like the paper tubes, and I'm just gonna throw like the diamond art in a drawer, And then I'll start getting into the stuff that needs a little bit more attention. Yeah, this is probably going to be just a big montage of me going through stuff, because I'm definitely going to have something to entertain me in the background while I do all this. So wish me luck, and I will see you on the other side of getting these drawers organized. All right, it took a lot of doing. There was a good bit of like repackaging and moving things around to make sure they fit as well as I could get them, but the crafting supplies are officially done. I'll show you what it looks like at the end in the veiling, just because I'm not sure if anything will maybe just scoot around a little bit more. But now we are on to like some of my like scrapbooky art journal, like more like papery type stuff. I have them separated right now, which at first I was fine with, and like I could still be fine with that, but I think since I do have some drawers still available, I want to get the more bulky, heavy type stuff, like probably at the actual paper, maybe some of the embellishments into here. I think some of like the inks and stamps are going to end up in boxes over at the desk area. But yeah, I have space, so I'm going to make use of it, and that way I can use that stuff for other things throughout the house. I'm not gonna lie, I got situated to start on this again and kind of immediately got intimidated, but we're gonna press through. So I finished sorting those papers. It wasn't like the most exciting process. It was pretty much just neatly stacking them up in there. The rest of my paper crafting stuff is set aside because I know at least part of it is going to get incorporated over here. Right now there's a lot of mess going on because I was like swapping out vessels and just kind of finding what needed to go into the drawers, and yeah, so I think once again the best way to get going is to simply clean slate this, pull everything off, and then start putting things back on in a way that makes more sense. So let's get started on that. All right, guys, it's been weeks longer than I was hoping this would be, but it is finally all complete. Yeah, this was a much longer process than I had initially anticipated, but I'm glad that I put the time and energy into getting it just how I want, functionally at least. I still do want to do some things aesthetic wise, painting things, adding labels, etc. But this space is usable. And not just for me, but my husband. I did have him come and kind of sit and play with the drawers and, you know, go through everything to make sure that it worked for him creatively as well. But yeah, a huge amount of it was stepping away and then coming back and then rearranging some more. But we made it. It's finally there, and now I can start working on other creative endeavors and hopefully get more content cranking out, because let's see, it's already midway through April and I have not, I don't think, posted like anything so far this year. I'm trying. It's a hard point in time right now, but I think that if I allow myself to find joy in these sort of things and make content, maybe I can bring some joy and relaxation to you too. But yeah, it is done, and I am ready for a project that does not involve cleaning or organizing. So I hope you join me for that. I hope this video inspired you to maybe tackle a project that you have been putting off. And I hope that it helped you to relax in peace. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.